So if you find this sleep story helpful or interesting, then give it a thumbs up, leave any comments that you've got below, and if you aren't already, subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you can receive notifications of when future sleep stories go live. I have dozens and dozens of stories already on my channel that you can go and search. I also release new stories every single week, so I hope you enjoy this story.
So as you listen to me and begin to comfortably drift asleep, I'm just going to tell this sleep meditation in the background. And as I tell this sleep meditation in the background, I don't know whether you'll drift asleep faster to the sound of my words or to the spaces between my words. And as you begin to comfortably drift asleep, you can find yourself walking through an art gallery. And as you walk through this art gallery, so you notice that echoing sound of each footstep on the stone floor. You notice the murmur of others walking around in the art gallery, and hearing the footsteps of others. And notice the calmness of the environment. And you notice the way that people are stopping, taking time to look at the pictures, taking the time to look at statues. There's a real slow pace to being in this art gallery. And you find a stone bench. You sit down on that stone bench, gazing at a large wall-sized piece of art on the other side of the room. And as you gaze at that large piece of art, so you start to wonder about what the artist was thinking as they painted it. And you imagine in your mind's eye the artist looking so small against that giant canvas as they paint that painting. You have a sense of them painting that painting. And as you watch that painting, so your focus begins to narrow more on the artwork. Your awareness of the rest of the art gallery begins to fade, and all your focus is just on that painting. And you notice as you watch that painting how the colours begin to swirl and move, and you almost feel drawn into that painting, feeling like somehow your consciousness is drawn out of yourself sat on that stone bench, across that room, into that painting. And you find yourself appearing in the painting. And as you explore that painting, so you find your way through what's almost like a secret door, and the other side of that door, you notice you're standing at the top of rolling hills that lead down to a cliff that overlooks the ocean. And you walk down those hills towards that cliff edge, walking through that grass, noticing the way the grass moves in waves as the wind blows a breeze. And as you walk towards the edge of the cliff, keeping a good distance back but getting nearer to the edge, you notice the colour of the sea. You notice the colour of the sky. You notice the way the clouds are just drifting and moving across the sky. And you can see some boats on the horizon. And as you look down, you can see the way the waves are crashing and breaking on the shore. And in the background you can hear that water as it crashes on the shore. And you can feel a sense of peace up here on the cliff. And you follow a footpath made from thousands of years of people walking along this cliff top. You follow that footpath, heading down that cliff, down along those hills, to a path that leads down to the shoreline. And the closer you get to the sea, the louder that crashing water sounds. And as you get closer, so you notice the salty spray in the air, tasting and smelling that salty spray. And you walk along the uneven stones and rocks down on the seashore, noticing how some areas those rocks slide and are loose under your feet. And that crunching sound as you walk along the seashore. And then you notice that there's a cave into the cliff. And you walk into that cave, and the water flows into the cave as well. And so as you walk into the cave, you notice how the waves that crash and flow into the cave echo and change sound. There's a certain texture to the sound that's different in the cave to outside the cave. And you walk along a ledge inside this cave, watching below you as that water flows in and runs in from the sea, and then draws back out again as the ocean pulls back. And then you hear in the distance, deep in the cave, what sounds almost like a steam train. And you continue walking deeper into that cave, and that sound like a steam train gets louder and louder. And you notice that there seems to be a railway track deep inside this cave, and a platform. And you decide with curiosity to board that train. And you use the handle to open the door. The door has a clunk-clunk feel as you close it behind you. And the door has a small window in it that you pull down, letting some fresh air into the train. And you sit down on the seat in the train, noticing you're sitting in your own private little cabin, and that on the left side of you is a sliding cabin door that leads out into a narrow corridor, barely wide enough to fit a person walking down it. And in the windows you notice curtains, and there's a shelf above your seat and above the seat opposite. And then you notice the train jolt and hear the sound of the wheels beginning to move as that train starts to move. And as the train starts to move, so it has a familiar and regular rhythm and sound. As the steam train at the front drags the carriages along through the cave, following that track. And you don't know where this train's going to go. And as that train goes, so out of all the windows, it looks like you're in a tunnel. You can't really see anything either side of you, just the faintest of glows coming from somewhere off in front of you. Perhaps the glow from the steam train at the front, maybe the glow from the lights in the windows in the cabins, and perhaps even a slight bit of light getting in from the exit from this tunnel. And although you can't see it looking out the window, you can tell that the train is beginning to speed up, that the rhythm of the sound the train makes is speeding up, that as it started it was and now it's much faster as that steam train continues through this cliff face, through this tunnel, before eventually you can notice that the train is coming out into daylight. But surprisingly, as this train comes out into daylight, something seems unusual, because as it comes out into daylight, so to the left of the train, you notice tall, snow-capped mountains. You can see the most beautiful, lush greens, trees, grass, animals grazing, a warm sun beating down on this area. You don't know where this area is, where you were, where you've come from. But you know that where you were definitely didn't look like it had an area like this near it. And the train continued to accelerate around a mountainous area, looking down over valleys and meadows, vast areas of woodland, with the warmth of the sun shining in the train. And eventually that train, heading around the mountains, passed into another tunnel. Then after a while that train came out of that tunnel. And now the train was powering its way through what seemed like a dense pine forest. And then in this pine forest the train eventually pulls in to a halt at a station. And you don't know where this is, or how all these areas are connected. Because it seems to be that you pass into a tunnel, and then you come out in an area that's nothing like the area you were in before. And yet you didn't see it coming. And as that train pulls into the station, so you hear someone saying that this is the final destination and everyone's to disembark. And you leave that train, and you follow the route from the station heading down into the forest. And as you walk deeper into the forest, so you can hear the most beautiful bird sounds, with no hint of sounds from humans, no sound of the train, no other sounds, just the birds and the gentle movement of the trees. And in silence you gently walk through that forest, heading deeper and deeper into the forest. And with so much silence other than nature, you begin to feel a sense of bliss, of peace and harmony and connection with this world around you. And as well as seeing the occasional dancing shards of light as the sun breaks through the canopy, breaking through the trees, you also notice little glowing balls of light. And you can see through those glowing balls, almost like they're just coloured patches of light passing around your field of view. And these balls of light seem to be quite distant and seem to be on the route you're taking. So you continue to head deeper and deeper into the forest, curious about those distant lights. And then you start to hear the sound of a stream somewhere in the distance. And you walk towards that sound and notice as you arrive at the stream that some of the lights are floating above the stream. And you watch that stream and relax. And you decide to sit down next to the stream. And so you sit down on the ground, listening to that stream flow past, letting your fingertips touch the water, enjoying being present. An almost blissful feeling here, relaxing in this woodland. Feeling like you're alone here, just you and nature. You notice the way that those lights seem to be dancing up and down that stream. You don't know quite what they are. But they don't just seem like random dust particles. And as you watch those random lights, so you notice a larger light rising up out of the stream. And as it rises up out of the stream, so it then opens, almost like it was a capsule. And inside that capsule is a fairy, and that fairy flies out of the capsule. It comes over to you, rests down in front of you, and the fairy begins to talk to you, telling you about this being a magic land. A land to bring peace and comfort to those who visit, but also a land to leave behind any troubles, any worries, any negativity, so that when you travel back through that picture and find yourself back in the art gallery, everything you want to leave behind is left here. And then over time, everything left here begins to fade away. And the less attention that's paid to something, the faster it fades. And this fairy shares this wisdom And then you notice that the other lights have begun to turn into fairies as well. And then all those fairies fly off, leaving you relaxing by that stream. And as the moon rises in the sky, so the sky turns dark. And as the sky turns dark, so you can notice in the slither of sky you can see above the stream, the stars arching overhead, the moon up there in the sky. And the moon is illuminating that stream, giving it an almost ethereal feel, making the water sparkle and twinkle. And the more you sit and relax here, the more you can hear that water and have a sense of being present and in the moment. And as night time sets in and progresses, so you rest yourself back against a tree. You close your eyes and you drift and float comfortably asleep. And as you drift and float comfortably asleep, so your mind wanders deeper into a dream world. And in this deeper dream world, you notice yourself looking over a vast valley, almost like you're seeing another location in the world you've fallen asleep in, as if mentally you've somehow followed this stream to its next destination, and you see a valley full of life, birds in the sky, animals grazing, a lot of greens and colours, and you know that this is helping to teach you to relax, to gain inner focus and wisdom, and to be present, and to treat each present as a present, being in the moment. And then, as you feel the slightest speckles of sun reaching your face, you awaken by that stream. You notice its beauty in daylight, and the way sunlight catches the mist above the water, the morning sounds of birds, the low mist through the woodland, through the trees. And you head back the way you came, finding that train. And the train seems to have turned around, ready for your return journey. And so you board that train. You follow that train back to where you started. You climb up the cliff. You gaze out, looking at the ocean, thinking about the journey you've just had, thinking about the learnings you've had, wondering whether you'll forget the experience when you pass back into the art gallery, or not. And you pass back into the art gallery, having a sense of drifting and floating through space and time, into the you sat in the art gallery, becoming more aware of the sounds of footsteps of people walking in the gallery, and other sounds in the gallery. And then you stand up in that art gallery, and with your echoey footsteps you walk through the art gallery, occasionally walking on rugs placed in the gallery, noticing the way that suddenly, instantly dulls the sound of those footsteps. And you find your way out of that art gallery. You head home. Once home, once at bedtime. You relax down, and as you drift and float asleep, so you find yourself easily and effortlessly drifting asleep, dreaming of your experiences, of the art gallery, of exploring the art gallery, of finding yourself in the painting, and your experiences exploring that world within the painting. And your body relaxes and becomes very still. And your mind begins to relax, focusing on what you gain as you drift deeper and more comfortably asleep. Drifting deeper and comfortably asleep, sleeping well all night long.